Welcome to Open Day at Monash University for 2020. I would like to welcome David Fraser to speak with you today. The topic for this presentation is data analytics, unlock meaning in a world full of data. Over to you, David.
Thanks, Deb. Before I begin, I'd like to do the customary welcome to country. I wish to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations on whose lands we are gathered today, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. As Deb said, I'm David Fraser. I'm a senior research fellow with the Australian Research Council and also associate professor in the Department of Econometrics and Business Statistics. Today, I'm going to talk to you a bit about what a career in analytics and the corresponding disciplines of econometrics and business statistics look like. In particular, what are the study options for these disciplines through Monash, and in particular, the Monash Business School. Before I begin, of course, not all of you will be familiar with what the idea of econometrics or business statistics is. So I want to give you a broad overview. Generally, what we say when we mean econometrics and business statistics is it's a way of using mathematics to model data, make predictions about that data, and help us inform policy. And by what I mean by policy is, say, people at Canberra who make the real decisions that impact our lives. In a sense, econometrics and business statistics, of which analytics is a subfield in a sense, is really about analyzing patterns that exist in data, but more importantly, being able to understand what those patterns are actually telling us and being able to derive the big ideas, the questions that are driving the data. The most important component to this, possibly in analytics and statistics, is really focusing on understanding how data shape our world and how we can leverage those data to make predictions about the future. One of the most important ones being right now, for instance, say the prediction of COVID-19 cases or something of this sort. That's a general overview of what econometrics is, and really the question then is, why would you study this versus, say, some other degrees in commerce? Really, econometrics and business statistics are for people who are interested in, say, a broad commerce education, but they have a like of mathematics or a like of programming or data analysis. The reason you should study these skills at, say, Monash versus somewhere else is really we're the only department of its kind in Australia, and really, in a sense, the entire world, that is dedicated to econometrics, statistics, analytics, and actuarial science. Moreover, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better group of both educators and researchers anywhere else in Australia. Our academics are often consulted by government and industry in many pressing problems, for instance, not in just insurance regulation, but also in terms of, say, electricity markets, and also in forecasting disease. So just as a general idea to give you what some of the pathways of careers look like in econometrics, business statistics, analytics, actuarial science, there are a plethora of pathways, both private, public, and NGO. The skills you would generally learn for these are broad ranging in many different disciplines, such as kind of quantitative methods, understanding risk analyses, understanding mortality, for instance, in actuarial science. And really, these skills have broad applicability to many different endeavors. Many of our graduates go on to work at existing tech firms, also in Australia, not just government and banking and things like this, the kind of the commonplace for very good commerce graduates, if you will. Moreover, the pathways are broadening in a sense. It's never been more important to have data analysis skills and be able to implement them from start to finish. And so our degrees are really kind of set up for this holistic approach of viewing data and analyzing data, in a sense, in a changing and evolving dynamic world. So given that, I want to just to give you a very brief idea about what our degrees are, the different pathways you can study them. And really, that's split up into two separate pathways. You have the Bachelor of Business and you have the Bachelor of Commerce. Inside of the Bachelor of Business, we offer 2 specific major options, the analytics and statistics option, and also an option in financial econometrics, which you can kind of think of as the statistical analysis related to financial data. The Bachelor of Business degrees are offered at the Caulfield campus, and the Bachelor of Commerce degrees are offered at our Clayton campus, which my background here is actually the Menzies building, which if you came and studied a Bachelor of Commerce, you would be your home, basically, at least for the next 3 years. Now, in the Bachelor of Commerce, we have several different options for you to study. If you're interested in actuarial science, we have a dedicated degree in actuarial science, also a major in the BCom. We have econometrics, mathematical econometrics, and also analytics as a specific field of study or majors within the BCom. Now, I want to give you just a very quick idea of some of the tools you may come to learn if you study each of the individual degrees. So in the context of econometrics, really, this is all about statistical modeling and data analysis, all within the auspices of economic theory. So it's a melding, in a sense, of statistics and economics, with data being the ultimate arbiter, really. One of the main, I would say, one of the main things an econometrician does is inform policy in terms of predictions and also economic modeling. And as I said before, we have quite a few options in the BCom to study econometrics and also in the BBiz to study econometrics. Now, actuarial studies is often a very popular major within the BCom. Really, this relates to understanding and modeling things like pension and insurance risk, and also just broad statistical and econometric modeling of risk phenomena such as end of life or other financial instruments. Moreover, this degree is actually accredited within the actuarial profession of Australia. I will also note that we have a separate Bachelor of Actuarial Studies, and really the difference between these two just relates to what qualifications you have when you come out. I can answer questions about that at the end. Now, business analytics, again, we have 2 separate pathways. We have both a pathway through the BBiz or a pathway through the BCom. But really, the key idea with analytics is we want to teach our students how to understand, manipulate, and parse data in a way that is useful for its end goal from many different sources: text data, geospatial data, standard numerical data, or qualitative data as well. Another principle here is to effectively visualize data. The human brain is really set up to visualize objects. We've evolved this way over millennia. And so understanding how to visualize data in a way that tells a story is a really key feature or skill any good data analyst really needs. Also, our programs really teach you how to effectively communicate the findings that results from your inevitable work with data. Lastly, our program, unlike some other analytics programs, is very, very structured in terms of teaching you how to make research reproducible. Many of you may have heard of this reproducibility crisis in scientific research, and in some ways, a lot of that comes down to poor training from a statistician's or analytics perspective. Our program really tries to set good foundations here so that we can, in some small measure, help with the reproducibility crisis. So before I go ahead and finish, I have another minute or two. I just wanted to tell you that in terms of double degrees, Monash offers many different double degrees within the Bachelor of Commerce. And so what this slide is basically showing is that if you have interests across multiple fields, say you're interested in engineering, but you're also interested in commerce, then the Bachelor of Commerce is specifically set up to allow double degree programs that can facilitate such a program of study. Also, we're finding, moreover, that many of the students who are interested in analytics will often go to FIT or IT and do a double degree in that. So they can get some commerce backing, but also kind of understand the more programming level aspects that are required to be, say, have a very good career in IT. Also, law, just there are many different options that the commerce degree offers in terms of double degrees. So that is all I have for you at the moment. Again, we're open to questions, and if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. So please go ahead, fire away.
Thank you, David. That was really informative. We do have a couple of questions. So the first one is, what's the difference between the Bachelor of Commerce with a major in actuarial and a Bachelor of Actuarial Science? And how does that help in terms of future employment and registration with the Institute of Actuaries?
That's a great question. Thank you for the question firstly, because this is always a sticking point that is not that easy to explain. And so what I will say is it effectively goes down to qualifications. So the way the Actuaries Institute accredits programs is through a sequence of steps. In a sense, like you get certain accreditation levels after you complete a set of courses. And the difference between the two degrees really just amounts to how many accreditations do you have at the end. So while you can get all of the accreditations through either degree, it's a stretch to do it in the BCom, i.e. if you do a major in actuarial science or actuarial studies versus if you did a dedicated degree in it. So you'll come out in a sense with more qualifications, most likely, if you do the dedicated degree in actuarial studies versus the BCom major in it. Now, what we often tell students is if this is what you want to do, you should start in the BCom and start taking a couple of courses in actuarial science so you know you like it, and then move into the dedicated bachelor's. That pathway is always open. But a lot of people we find think they want to be an actuary, and as they start getting more involved in it, they say, well, there are other things I'm interested in too, and there's where these double degree options kind of come in. So with the Bachelor of Actuarial Studies, it would be very difficult, for instance, to do a double degree in that and something else. It's a much more heavy program in a sense. Good question.
All right, David, next question. What double degree do you recommend to join in order to join one of the big four consulting firms such as McKinsey or Bain?
That's another really good question. So it depends exactly what you want to be doing within McKinsey or Bain. So if you're more interested in the quantitative aspects, then something like econometrics or analytics with another degree inside of BCom, another major, would be quite useful. Now, if you have more specific interests, say in law and then doing a double degree in law and something like the quantitative aspects of econometrics or analytics would be quite useful, actually. It just depends on what your interests are in a sense. There is no one size fits all structure here, but I would say that law and econometrics is pretty common, and so is, say, something like analytics and information technology, actually, because what you get there is both a commerce education, but also some more of the nitty-gritty skills in terms of data analysis, such as in Python and C and stuff like this.
All right, we have quite a few questions coming through, so that's great. Our next question is, what's the key difference between business data analytics and the one under the Bachelor of Science data analytics?
Yeah, so really, in a sense, the Bachelor of Science and the BCom version are not exactly, how can I put this, compatible in a sense. We are, at its heart, Department of Econometrics and Statistics, which means the analytics you will learn is much more the analytics of data. And that, I mean, you will be manipulating data at a holistic level from day one. Now, in the data science bachelor's, from my understanding, you're going to learn much more kind of the lower level programming stuff before. There is not a dedicated unit in, say, Python in the Bachelor of Commerce Analytics degree. There are dedicated units in, say, Python in the FIT version, which I think is what you're referring to. Now, the way we deal with this is part of, say, ETC 1010, which is data modeling and computing. Your first third of that course is all learning the code requisites, in a sense, required to be knowledgeable enough and to be able to manipulate data. So in one, I guess I would say you learn along the way, which is our degree. And in the other, you learn starting and then move to data.
Okay. All right. Another question in the actuarial field. What are the average numbers of students enrolling into actuarial science each year?
So Okay, so that's a very good question. I don't remember the exact numbers. The intakes vary year to year, and it's a little difficult to parse out because the Bachelor of Actuarial Studies and the BCom major in Actuarial Studies, the BCom major doesn't have to be declared until after the first year. So students would enroll in a Bachelor of Commerce, but we don't necessarily know what they're going to finalize in until after that first year is over. So generally speaking, it's somewhere the past few years, at least, I think, somewhere between 50 and 150. Those numbers are off the top of my head, and I'm not exactly certain. I've given you a bigger range than the range that was in my head for uncertainty quantification, but it's somewhere around that ballpark.
So could you tell us, how does the Monash degree in actuarial science differ from the University of Melbourne's actuary major in the BCom?
So in some sense, both programs are trying to get you those accreditations. And so the major versions of them, either the major in commerce or the version at Melbourne, are all going to be based on similar courses because they're all trying to get you that accreditation. Now, what will change will be the specific focuses of those two separate universities. So if I remember correctly, the Melbourne version is taught out of business and economics, I think. And their degree is going to be more economic modeling and things like this, versus our version of actuary is going to be much more tinged with econometrics and data analysis and data analytics, because that's what we do as a department, and that's what our focus is. So all of our degrees are going to reflect that. So in some sense, I would hazard a guess, not knowing exactly the structure of the Melbourne Uni Melbourne program, but it would be more modeling and more mathematics, versus in the actual version here, you're going to have more statistics and econometrics and a bit more data.
All right, look, it's nearly the end and we have time for one more question. Could you summarize the main differences between econometrics, business analytics, and mathematical foundations of econometrics?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I was actually involved in the restructuring of the major that led to this mathematical foundations of econometrics. Really, the difference is one of focus. In econometrics, you're going to get a very broad focus. You're going to learn many different things, both data skills and how to apply statistical modeling. And versus the mathematical version of econometrics, you're going to get less of that, more understanding of the mathematics that actually underlie it. And analytics basically is going to give you more data focus, more programming focus. So in a sense, it's a continuum. On the one hand, you have more database skills, and this is where analytics sits. And on the other side, you have mathematical econometrics, or foundations of it, which is the more mathematical aspects of statistics and econometrics. And econometrics kind of sits smack dab in the middle there. So in a sense, you have this continuum of degrees, and what you sort into in the major is not so critical, because you can take bits of units from each, and it's just kind of what your core ends up being. Are you slightly more focused on the mathematical aspects, or are you slightly more focused on the data aspects, or are you just kind of in between, really, for econometrics versus analytics on the data side and mathematical econometrics more on the math? It's a good question.
All right, well, thank you everyone for your participation. We've finished off with this presentation, so please head to the booth if you have any more questions, and our academics are waiting there on the live chat to speak with you for the rest of this afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Stay safe.